Hi guys! In this video, we're going to be creating a cute floating pixel cut timer using React and Electron. If you're someone like me who spends so much time on her laptop, this is going to be really helpful because during the break time, the cat walks to the center of the screen and it stretches and take a little nap, and it's letting you know that it's time to step away and do something else for a little bit. So without further ado, let's get coding and have some fun! First, we'll see the screen where we can choose focus and break times. For testing purposes, I'm going to use 1 minute. And then the cat will move to the bottom right corner. We can also drag the cat around if we like. After the timer ends, it will walk back to the center and take a nap. Nice and sweet, so let's get to work. The very first thing we need to do is to download Node.js from this website if you haven't already, something that's compatible to your OS. Then we're going to go to terminal and we're going to install React first using npx create react app, and we'll use TypeScript. After that is done, we are going to install Electron. Then one last thing, we'll be installing the Electron builder. Electron builder is needed to export the Electron app as the desktop app. And if you go to localhost 3000, this is what you should see. Let's go into our code editor. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. Please use whatever seems fit for you. We will have to change the default script, and the first thing is to change the Electron code so that we wait for localhost first before we run Electron. Then we want to concurrently run npm start and npm Electron so we don't have to run both of them over and over again. And the last thing we need is the distribution code. So when we're all done, then we'll be running the script. Awesome. And now we just have to install concurrently and one more, which is wait on. Awesome. Let's create a very draft version of Electron file in our public folder. We'll be importing app and browser window from Electron, and then URL, and also the path for that URL. Our main function, create main window. We're gonna have a constant for the main window by creating a new browser window, and we'll name the title Kitty Timer and the width and height to be 280 because I just want it to be relatively small, but you can adjust it to however you like. And we're gonna specify the URL from where we're going to import the content into our Electron. That we want it from the in the build folder, the index.html, but currently we don't have it yet. We'll have that after we have run npm run build. Currently we're just going to say we're going to load that URL, and when it's ready, we're going to create the main window. But now we're in development mode, so the app is not packaged. If it's in dev mode, we just want the content to be loaded from whatever we have in localhost 3000, that way we run the React. Alright, we just have to import our assets. You can find all of the image assets file in my GitHub. You just have to copy and paste them in. And we're going to work on our app.tsx. We're just going to remove everything that they have on default and start from scratch. We'll have to use useState because we want 3 constants for now: focus, break, and start timer. Alright, this is going to be a very draft version just to see if our Electron is connected to React. So we'll have a very draft thing where we just have our title and we'll have the selection for our focus. Every time our selection change, we're going to update our focus selection. And these are the variables that we want. You can change to whatever you like. Can be 15 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay. Now let's try running it using this one, npm run def. And that's what you should see. Start working on our timer logic. We need to create a new file called use Pomodoro. We'll be doing that in TypeScript. We will be needing use effect, use reference, and use state. First, we need to declare 3 different modes: idle, focus, and break. Idle is for settings, and we'll also have an options interface for focus minutes and break minutes. Those will be used in our drop down for selection in our settings mode. And the props we'll be taking are the focus minutes and break minutes. Then we'll have our constant mode, seconds left, and we'll have a reference called interval ref, and that will be either null or in a timeout object. Let's begin with our very first function called start focus. So we'll set our mode to focus, and we'll have our seconds left into focus into 60, so we get in seconds from our minutes. We do the same for break, and we'll have a stop function. Here we'll set the mode back to settings, that's why it's idle, and we'll have our seconds left to 0, and we will clear whatever interval that we have created. Then we'll also have our start function, where we just call our start focus function. Now we'll be using use effect, and for this, for every time the mode changes, if the seconds left is greater than 0, we'll return, but if it's not, then we're going to call the function start break if the mode is focus, and if the mode is break, we're going to start focus. And we'll be returning everything, and we'll be calling use Pomodoro from our app.tsx file, and we'll be creating mode seconds left start stop from use Pomodoro function. And for focus minutes, we'll be taking focus, break minutes will be break time. And we need a helper function to format our time from what we have. And this is just how we want to display our time. Double digits for minutes and double digits for seconds. We're going to add data mode to our biggest diff, the outermost diff, and we'll rewrite everything so it's clearer for you. We have a placeholder for where we want to put our cat's images, but for now we'll just leave as is. And then we'll have another diff inside our main diff for UI, depending on which mode we are in. And we'll have a button to close our app, which will be just an X with a rounder rectangle background. And if we're in idle mode, which is settings mode, we'll display our title kitty timer, and we'll have our 2 rows, which is focus. We have done this before and we're just redoing it. We'll have a value as focus, and whenever we change the selection, we will set the focus again according to whatever the user picked. And we'll do the same for break. And every time a selection change, we will set the break time to the selected one. And it works. Now let's proceed to our start and stop button. When the start button is clicked, we want to call our start function. And that is from the use Pomodoro that we had written before. Now when we click start, nothing happened. Why? Let's look into that. We need to create the mode where it's timer. So if we are not in idle mode, if we're not in the settings mode, then we will be creating a row where we have our label that is either focus or break, and we'll have the timer on the other side of the row. And in the middle we'll have our stop button. And we call the stop function from which we had previously written and used Pomodoro. Now we can see the time and the mode, but why is it not running? And that's because we need another use effect for whenever the time change, whenever the mode changes. So if mode is settings, we're just going to return. But if it's not, then we're going to set the seconds left by subtracting from what we have every second. That way it's just like subtracting and the timer is counting down. Alright, looks good. Let's test with 1 minute. And it's working. Now it's the fun part where we make everything look prettier. I'm not actually really going to go into details because it's just CSS. We'll just first start with our HTML and body, and we'll be importing a Google font called BitCount Single. And we'll be placing the link here, and I got this from Google Fonts, okay? Next up, we have our root, and we're just setting it to 100 width, 100 height. And for the app, we are doing the same width and height as we have specified in Electron.js. Now for the cats, which we haven't imported yet, but this is what we will be doing. We'll have the same width and height. And for the UI, that is where we have our settings, the focus time, and the focus mode text. And for each row, we'll have it centered. And these are just all the design styling for timer and mode and time. And for button and selection, it's really important that we set the WebKit app version to no drag, because those are the regions where we don't want to drag. And that's what we have. We're going to be using these images to figure out how we are going to coordinate the cat animations. Let's start with creating our file called useCatAnimation, and we'll be importing useEffect, useRef, and useState. And let's specify the different type of animations that we want. We want idle, walk, stretch, sleep, and wake. And the props that we want are mode, which is either idle, focus, or break. And let's specify our constant, the animations, and previous mode will be our reference. It can either be idle, focus, or break. The default will be idle as well. Then we'll set our cat move duration from one position to another. At 7,000 means 7 seconds. And we'll have our move window function that's either bottom right or center. And we are going to get that from the Electron file. Let's work on that. So let's go to our electron.js, and we'll be creating different functions, but first we need to import our IPC main and screen. These are necessary to move the entire Electron window around our desktop. Our main helper function is called moveWindow2, and we'll need our x and y values. Let's create our main window constant, and we'll get our window bounds and our frame per second. Let's do 60. And we'll find how many steps it needs to get there. And that's how we get our timer logic. This is basically just creating how much time it needs to get from one position, from the center to either the bottom right, or from the bottom right to the center, or from any position the cat is in to the center or the bottom right. Okay. Now we have to create our two functions, which is move bottom right or move to the center, using our moveWindow2 function. We're just getting the size and the bounds of the window and just like figuring out where is the bottom right. And we do the same for move center as well. And we also want our close window function that we will be writing later in app.tsx, but let's just write that for now as well. You know, the little X button on the top left one? Yeah. Okay, we're back to our useCat animation file. So whenever we want to change from idle to focus, what we need to do is to figure out whether we want to move somewhere, and for that we need to use it inside our use effect, because every time the mode changes we want to have these changes. And we would need our constant from, so that we can specify where is it coming from and where we're going. And if the mode is idle, we want to set the animation to idle. And if not, if we're switching modes, then we would want to set animation to walk to the bottom right, and we want to have our animation to be idle depending on the time it takes the cat to move. That is 7 seconds. And if everything is done, we want to clear our reference. Another scenario where we're moving from break to focus, then we would first want the cat to wake up, and then we want it to walk. And then we want it to be idle. So it would just be staying in place. And if everything is done, we want to clear our idle timer and also the break timer. So the cat move duration in Electron.js and our use cat animation file should be the same. And when we're doing from focus to break, then we would want to walk, stretch, and sleep. We do the similar things, just changing whatever is necessary. And when everything is done, we will return the animation. And we'll be importing that in our app.tsx file. And we'll be importing all of the images that are necessary from our assets folder. All of the modes like walk, stretch, sleep, wake, and idle. And we'll also be importing cat face, which is the background image for our settings. Because our images are animated PNGs, we'll have to use as a record object. Then let's import our animation from cat animation file, and that's where we get the animation from, the one that we returned. Alrighty, now we can finally work on our cat layer. So what we want to do is, if it's not idle mode, then we would want to use our sprites, and if it's idle mode, which is settings, we just want to use the cat face image. Alright, looking good. Now we want to change the look of our Electron window. You know, we don't want those top frames and those like minimizing and closing buttons. What we will do is we'll go to Electron.js and we will write that we don't want the frame, and we want it to be a transparent window, and I don't know if we need the background color, but we'll come back to that. And we do a bunch of stuff like our web preferences and whatnots. Okay, we have an error. Let's see. Oh, we need to specify that once our window is ready to show, we will show it, and we want it as a floating window, and we want to center it. Let's remove the background and rerun it, and it works. But we still have the error when we like try to click start, and it's something to do with move bottom. it's the same when we do our localhost. It's because we are missing our constant y in electron.js, and we have this constant that needs to be removed, and we have like x and y's messed up. Still, we are missing something, but if we rerun it, it works. But we are in the opposite direction because it should be x and not y. If we run again, and also add our previous mode.current as mode, then yay, it works. Now we are ready to build it up and package and distribute. And before that, one more thing, we need to make sure that our app can be closed. And we will specify that on our onClick, and the app closed. See what final changes that we need to make. So I don't like the way the cat is walking backwards towards the bottom right, so we're gonna fix that. We'll have a constant called walk right that keeps tracks of whether we want it to walk right or not. So we will be specifying whether it's true or false, and every time the animation is set to walk. And the only time that will be false is from focus to break. And we will be returning the walk right and importing it in app.tsx. And we want to have a styling thing in the cat layer. We'll just transform it whenever the walk right is true, then we want to flip it. That's how we do it, scale x as -1. And if we try to run it again, then that's how it looks. That looks good. I'm happy about that. So we can finally go into package.json to write our build script. We will always have to give an app ID in Mac OS, and we need a product name and directories that we use. That would be assets, and the files that we use are the build folder, the public folder with electron.js file, and the node modules. And this depends on whether you're using Mac or Windows. If it's a Windows, you might want to look at the documentation or Google it and see what would be the script. Now we are going to distribute it by running the npm run dist, and in the distribution folder you should see the icon, and when you click that, ta-da, we have it. Now you have a little cat that can keep you company when you code. Hi, if you're seeing this, you made it till the very end. If you find it helpful and at least learn something, please give it a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye for now.